Lime and limpid green, second scene, the fight between the blue you once knew. Floating down, the sound resounds around the icy waters underground. Jupiter and Saturn, Oberon, Miranda, and Titania. Neptune, Titan, stars can frighten. Blinding signs flap, flicker, 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 blam. Stairway scare, Dan dare, who's there? Very interesting. Astronomy Domini. I think that's what it's called. By Pink Floyd. Those are just interesting lyrics to me. Stairway scare Dan, as in D-A-N, Dan. There, who's there? That was one of the ones written by Syd Barrett, who went insane. Which I'm sure he did. But you know. So this is not All Roads Lead to Rome. This is a intermission in every sense of the word. I'm calling it my future final discourse because no one truly knows his future. That's why Messiah even had to go by faith. He knew it was spoken of. He knew it was written of. He knew when his time wasn't there, but the closer he got to his time, the more agony he was in his own words. And he told his disciples before he had Passover with them that of all the things that have come so far, he has been eagerly waiting for that day when he was able to enjoy Passover with his friends. Because he was about to fulfill his purpose, and he said he is in great agony until it is fulfilled. But he had, I believe, a moment of peace when he spent Passover with his friends. And I believe that's why he said, more than anything, he had been eagerly waiting to celebrate that Passover. So this is a collection of scriptures. I'm not sure how long it's going to take, but I called this part 1 because I figured it wouldn't be an hour. And I didn't set anything up yet. I wanted to put bookmarks, but I didn't have time. I just did it right off the bat. So first is Ecclesiastes. Where is that in this one? I think they put it after here. Let me see. Nope, that's Chronicles. That's Kings. Let's go. Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Samuel, Kings, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Zechariah, Psalms, almost there, Proverbs, Job, and then there it is. It's better this way, I think. So in Hebrew, Ecclesiastes is Koheleth. That is the covener. It has kop in there. It has to behold a lamed, a scholar, and then it has a teth, which is a vortex or a tethered thing. That's why vortex is really kind of the best translation, in my opinion, because when I use that, it makes more sense than any other translation when I'm breaking words apart. So the cop that beholds the lam vortex, and lam can be lamentation or moisture and renewal. So you got to keep that in mind too. So the cop, who's the cop in this situation, it seems? It seems that the cop is Solomon, and he's beholding the lamed's, the scholar's vortex. And what does he do throughout Ecclesiastes? He's in a vortex dealing with being so wise and wealthy, but realizing it doesn't really get you anywhere if the majority of people are not righteous. So I want to read the first chapter here because it's my favorite. One of my favorite. So it goes, the words of Koheleth, son of David, sovereign in Jerusalem. Futility. Futility, says Koheleth. Futility, futility. All is futile. What does man gain from all his labor, in which he toils under the sun? A generation passes away, and a generation comes, but the earth stands forever. The sun also rises, and the sun sets, and hurries back to the place where it arose. Very interesting words. Going to the south and turning around to the north, turning, and on its rounds the wind returns. Wow. They usually say that whole verse 6 there is about the wind, but that's interesting. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea never overflows. To the place from which the rivers come, there they return again. All matters are wearisome, no one is able to speak of it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. What has been is what shall be, what has been done is what shall be done, and there is no new matter under the sun. Very interesting. That would agree with modern science, to be honest. Is there a matter of which it is said, see, this is new? It was here already long ago. So if they claim they're creating new atoms or new matter, they're actually not. It was there already and they're extracting it, or they're lying. There is no remembrance of former ones, nor is there any remembrance of those that are to come by those who come later on. This means no remembrance. Doesn't mean there's no record. It just means nobody cares and nobody remembers because they're too busy. I, Koheleth, was sovereign over Israel in Jerusalem, and I set my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all that has been done under the heavens. This evil task Elohim has given to the sons of man to be humbled by it. And remember, good and evil aren't moral, so it's disastrous. I can attest to that. So this disastrous task, setting your heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all that has been done under the heavens, this disastrous task Elohim has given to the sons of man to be humbled by it. Do you understand? People need to fix their perception. It is a disastrous task, but you must go through it. Why? Because Elohim has given it to you, and it's to humble you. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and see, all was futile and feeding on wind. The crooked cannot be straightened, and what is lacking could not be counted. So I spoke to my heart, or literally being. I spoke to my being, saying, "See, I have attained greatness, and have gained more wisdom than all who were before me in Jerusalem. And my being has seen much wisdom and knowledge. And I set my heart to know wisdom, and to know madness and folly. I know that this too is feeding on wind, for in much wisdom is much grief. And he who increases knowledge increases suffering." I don't think I had to explain much of that, but I want to now go to Jeremiah chapter 1, because a lot of this will be me reading parts of scripture that has stood out to me the most in various ways. So it's a lot of scripture being read. Just like Moses, when he gave his final discourse, and they call it Deuteronomy, because it's your duty. It's not your right, it's your responsibility. You have no rights. Elohim has rights, and Elohim alone. You have responsibilities. The only right you have is given to you on the last day, when you have accomplished your responsibilities. Your rights don't come any time except on Judgment Day, when your responsibilities have been put before all the elect Elohim in the heavens, Hashemayim, and the books are opened. So this is Yirmiyahu. They call Jeremiah, but it's Yirmiyahu, chapter 1. The words of Yirmiyahu, the son of Hilkiyahu, of the priests who were in Anathoth. That's the testimony of the vortex. That is the madness. Who were in Anathoth, in the land of Binyamin, which is son of honor or son of strength, the right hand, to whom the word of Yehovah came in the days of Yoshayahu, that's Josiah, son of Ammon, sovereign of Yehuda, in the 13th year of his reign. And I literally started reading this at the 13-minute mark. I just didn't say anything, but that's weird. Anyway. And I spent 13 years in the false church that I talk about a lot. It's very strange. Anyway. And it came in the days of Jehoiakim, son of Yoshayahu, sovereign of Yehuda, until the end of the 11th year of Zidkiyahu, that's Zedekiah, son of Yoshayahu, sovereign of Yehuda, until the exile of Jerusalem in the 5th new moon. I think I might have actually started all these new broadcasts in the 5th new moon. I have to look into that. April, May, June, July, August, September. Oh, September's actually the 5th month. That's interesting. Okie dokie. Now the word of Yehovah came to me, saying, "Before I formed you in the belly, I knew you. And before you came out of the womb, I did set you apart. I appointed you a prophet to nations. And said I, Ah, Master Yehovah, see, I do not know how to speak, for I am a youth. And Yehovah said to me, Do not say, I am a youth, but go to all to whom I send you, and speak whatever I command you. Do not fear their faces, for I am with you to deliver you, declares Yehovah." What was that? I feel like the screen just flickered. Okay. Do not fear their faces. Where was I at? Here he goes. Then Yehovah put forth his hand and touched my mouth. And Yahweh said to me, see, I have put my words in your mouth. See, I have this day set you over the nations and over the reigns, to root out and to pull down, to destroy and to overthrow, to build and to plant. And the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, what do you see, Yirmiyahu? And I said, I see a branch of an almond tree. And Yahweh said to me, you have seen well, for I am watching over my word to do it. Because almond branch, I guess, sounds this similar to the Hebrew word for almond. See, he's aligning vision and words. Do you understand? And the word of Yahweh came to me a second time, saying, what do you see? And I said, I see a boiling pot, and it is facing away from the north. And Yahweh said to me, out of the north, evil or disaster is set loose on all inhabitants of the land. For look, I am calling all the clans of the reigns of the north, declares Jehovah, and they shall come, and each one set his throne at the entrance of the gates of Jerusalem, against all its walls all around, and against all the cities of Yehudah. And I shall pronounce my judgments against them concerning all their evil, because they have forsaken me, burned incense to other mighty ones, and bowed themselves to the works of their own hands. The Kaisers, the Caesars, forced people to burn incense before their statues, or they would have capital punishment most of the time. Now gird up your loins and arise. That means basically because they'd wear robes, that means tuck your robe into your belt so you can run and you can work, basically. Now gird up your loins and arise, and speak to them all that I command you. Do not break down before their faces, lest I break you before them. For look, I have made you this day a walled city, and an iron column, and bronze walls against all the land. Think of modern technology. This is an invulnerability. For look, I have made you this day a walled city and an iron column and bronze walls against all the land, against the sovereigns of Yehudah, against her heads, Rosh, against her priests, and against the people of the land. And they shall fight against you, but not prevail against you. For I am with you, declares Jehovah, to deliver you. The reason why that's very fitting is because I've been speaking to IDF officers recently using a camera cycling website, and I just set it to Israel. And the more I speak, the more IDF soldiers I run into. I met a very nice one, though. It's good to make friends with at least one of them. But the other ones try to lie very, very blatantly. And I just spoke the other day to this young man who had his face and everything wrapped up. You just see his eyes. He had blue eyes. And I basically told him the entire plan. I told him all this stuff I talk about with China and the bioharvesting labs. I talked about how there's very little Semitic features in Asia. The only Semites you see are in the Himalayas, and their leader is called the Dalai Lama, which is the bucket carrier for the scholar, which makes me think, I wonder if they came from the Gibeonites. If you research the Gibeonites, they were drawers of water and cutters of wood for the temple. That was their curse. But they enjoyed that because it actually got them close to the temple. So I'm not endorsing these people. I'm saying that might be the control system. these might be Gibeonites, these monks and stuff, and they're trying to have a control system over them. But that's another thing. So I told them, like, basically, they don't care about religion. They don't care if you're Muslim. They don't care if you're Christian. They don't care if you're Jewish. They don't like Semites. They're tired of just dealing with Hebrews. Hebrews are only a small portion of Semites, like 0.0004%, something like that. They want all Semites. They're done with it. So I went over the whole thing with the AI and all that, and I can see tears in his eyes, and I can tell by his eyes he was taking it all into his heart. I told him I was Christian. I told him a bunch of different things. And I told him we have to start using our mouths only as weapons. Only our mouths. Because the time for martyrdom is here. And it's our mouths. That is the only weapon you shall pick up, or you will fail. And so I'm telling him these things, and I'm like, we need to get together and tell people this information so that they work together and they're peaceful, so that these Abrahamic faiths and different types of Semites realize we're not each other's enemies, and there is an enemy out there that's trying to get rid of those phenotypes and skull shapes. So I gave him a testimony of peace where we can all band together and use only our mouths. He took it all into his heart, and I told him things are going to get very rough. Things are going to get hard, so we need to because I said in scripture, it says, if you follow the two greatest commandments, put Elohim as one Elohim at your highest devotion and love your neighbor as yourself, you will enter paradise. Those are Messiah's words. And I told him things are going to get rough, and immediately he looks kind of scared, and he's looking around, and he's like, he said, I hear explosions. And he looked at his phone because they have apps that tell you when rockets hit. And he said the town next to him, right next to him, is being bombed. And so I prayed. So I prayed for him. A hedge of protection. I spoke the name. And I believe I believe he made it in my heart. But so far, that attack that was happening, I was literally speaking to him right before the attacks that just recently happened in Lebanon. He might have been Lebanese, doing the same thing I'm doing. Because if you press Israel on that website, I think it shows that you're from Israel. I'm not sure. But it said he was from Israel, so maybe he was in Lebanon, I don't know. But so far, 500 people have been killed in Lebanon since Monday. And recently, over 50 children. You can look on my Telegram. I have a picture of the rocket launches. There's only 7 dots for Hezbollah. And I know some of those just landed in open fields because I researched a lot on this. And then the other ones are literally because they'll shoot at a tank, and because they don't have all the high technology that Israel has, sometimes they miss and it launches off somewhere. But if you look at the red dots for Israel, there's hundreds of them, and that's because they have a Soviet government, and it doesn't look as Semitic as their people. But I want to get into that. So I was literally on the front lines. I was able to pray for somebody and tell them my whole message that I've been given. He took it into his heart, and I prayed for him, and I believe he survived, and now he has a testimony like, hey, this dude spoke to me, told me all this like wild stuff that made so much sense, and then he said it was going to get rough, and right after he said that, there was bombings, and then he prayed for me, and I survived. So that's why I do what I do, because it's very, very rewarding. So next here, I want to go to 1 Samuel chapter 15. So if people have their Bibles, they can... Oh, I got to it really fast. They can follow along with me, but I'll be reading it right out of the Scriptures version, because that's the most accurate I've seen so far. So 1 Samuel chapter 15, and then chapter 19 after. This is Agag. And Shemuel said to Shaul, Yehovah sent me to anoint you sovereign over his people, over Israel. And now listen to the voice of the words of Yehovah. Thus said Yehovah Sabaoth, I shall punish Amalek for what he did to Israel, and how he set himself against him on the way when he came up out of Mitzrayim. So in other words, they were going to slaughter all the Israelites when they came out of Mitzrayim. Women and children, everybody. Do you understand? So he says, and they breed them as messengers, and they do, if you look at their pagan practices, it's very, very disturbing. I remember, like in India, you can look up in India where a lot of their children come out very horribly disabled, and the disabilities mirror the idols they worship. And so instead of seeing it as a bad thing, they end up worshiping the child and thinking he's holy or something. It's weird. You have to look into it. But I'm trying to give context because some people don't understand certain commands in Scripture. And I'm not going to apologize for them. I'm just going to try to give you context. He says, Now go, and you shall strike Amalek, and put under the ban all that he has, and you shall not spare them, and put to death from man to woman, from infant to nursing child, from ox to sheep, from camel to donkey. Then Shaul summoned the people and mustered them in Telaim, 200,000 foot soldiers and 10,000 men of Yehudah. And Shaul came to a city of Amalek and lay in wait in the Vadi. And Shaul said to the Kenites, Go, turn aside, come down from among the Amalekites, lest I destroy you with them, for you did show loving commitment to all the children of Israel when they came up out of Mitzrayim. So the Kenites turned aside from the midst of the Amalekites. So the Kenites, that's where you get keen from. They knew how to watch the wilderness, and they knew a lot about the wilderness, and they helped Israel a lot. So that's why he gave them a warning to depart from the Amalekites before the judgment came. Let's see. And Shaul struck the Amalekites from Havilah all the way to Shur. So Havilah is a languishing village, and Shur is like sh and ur, so it's splitting the good from the evil and putting them in separate places. And Ir, or Ur, is to strip or to terrify, which is before Mitzrayim. So they're going in the direction of Egypt. And he caught Agag, which just means like highly exalted, or even the teaching of Gog. Gog. The teaching of Gog, or even the brother of Gog. And he caught Agag, sovereign of the Amalekites, alive, and put under the ban all the people with the edge of the sword. Listen carefully. But Shaul and the people spared Agag and the best of the sheep, and the cattle, and the fatlings, and the lambs, and all that was good, and would not put them under the ban. But all goods despised and worthless, that they put under the ban. So they actually got rid of all the people, but spared the animals. This is what needs to be focused on. And the word of Yehovah came to Shemuel, which is Samuel, saying, I am grieved that I have set up Saul as sovereign, for he has turned back from following me, and has not performed my words. And it displeased Shemuel, and he cried to Yehovah all night. That is literally Shael, which sounds like Saul, because Saul's name means prayer, because Shael is literally to cry out for power or to cry out to God specifically. But remember, El and Elohim just mean force and forces, and it's usually implied something angelic or heavenly. But sometimes it can mean a judge, a mighty judge, a mighty warrior. And Shemuel rose early in the morning to meet Shaul, and it was told to Shemuel, saying, Shaul went to Carmel, and see, he set up a monument for himself. Interesting what happened on Carmel later on, right, with Elijah, which is Eliyahu. He made a monument for himself. Think of the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem with Trump's plaque on it and all that. Then turned and passed over and went down to Gilgal. And Shemuel came to Saul, and Saul said to him, Blessed are you of Yehovah, I have performed the words of Yehovah. But Shemuel said, What then is this bleating of the sheep in my ears, and the lowing of cattle which I hear? And Shaul said, They have brought them from Amalek. So this is the contrast I'm seeing here. People who are just a marauding band and thieves will take all the goods for themselves. If literally everything is destroyed, it's showing that that's judgment from Elohim. If you spare the animals and take the spoils, then it just shows you're a marauding band, and it doesn't give glory to Elohim. I want you to know that. And Shaul said, They have brought them from Amalek, because the people spared the best of the sheep and the cattle. Oh, it's democracy now. Remember, Shaul was the keeper of the donkeys, which is the symbol for democracy, and now he's blaming the people. Oh, the people voted. The people spared the best of the sheep and the cattle to slaughter to Yehovah your Elohim, and the rest we have put under the ban. And Shemuel said to Shaul, Wait, and let me declare to you what Yehovah said to me last night. And he said to him, Speak. And Shemuel said, Though you were little in your own eyes, were you not head of the tribes of Israel? And did not Yehovah anoint you sovereign over Israel? And Yehovah sent you on the way and said, Go, and you shall put under the ban the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are consumed. And why did you not obey the voice of Yehovah, but swooped down on the spoil? That's what eagles do. And did evil in the eyes of Yehovah. And Shaul said to Shemuel, I did obey the voice of Yehovah, and I went on the way in which Yehovah sent me, and brought back Agag, sovereign of Amalek, and put Amalek under the ban. But the people took the spoil. The people voted. The people took of the spoil of the sheep and cattle, the best of that which should have been put under the ban, to slaughter Yehovah your Elohim in Gilgal. Then he should have put them under the ban. That would have glorified Elohim, because it's like, oh, even the people who tried to take the spoil were put under the ban, even though it was the same people by blood. That shows that it's wrath from Elohim. When you just take the spoil, you just look like a bunch of pirates. Do you understand? Then Shemuel said, Does Yehovah delight in ascending offerings and slaughterings, as in obeying the voice of Yehovah? Look, to obey is better than a slaughtering. It's offering. So it's better than an offering. Doesn't matter how much money you have. If you're obeying, you're giving more of an offering than any billionaire can. He says, look, to obey is better than a slaughtering. To heed is better than the fat of rams. For rebellion is as the sin of divination, which is witchcraft. So rebellion is witchcraft. And stubbornness is as wickedness and idolatry, because you're worshiping yourself and your own opinion. You're leaning on your own understanding. He says, because you have rejected the Bar Yehovah, the word of Yehovah, he also does reject you as sovereign. So you have no sovereignty when you disobey the words of Yehovah. It's always word. I'm used to the English words. It's usually singular. And Shaul said to Shemuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the mouth of Yehovah and your words, because I feared the people and listened to their voice. And now please pardon my sin and return with me and let me bow myself to Yehovah. He just wants it for his own glory, so that his soldiers don't see him as despised. But Shemuel said to Shaul, I do not return with you, for you have rejected the word of Yehovah, and Yehovah does reject you from being sovereign over Israel. And as Shemuel turned to go away, Shaul took hold of the edge of his robe, and it tore. And Shemuel said to him, Yehovah has torn the reign of Yisrael from you today, and has given it to a neighbor of yours, better than you. Moreover, the eminence of Israel does not lie or relent, for he is not a man that he should relent. Then he said, I have sinned, but esteem me now, please, before the elders of my people and before Israel, and return with me, and I shall bow myself to Yehovah your Elohim. You see how much he pretends? He doesn't want to be disgraced in front of the people. That's all he's going for right here. So the prophet can obviously see that, and he's going to use it to his advantage. And Shemuel turned back after Saul, and Shaul bowed himself to Yehovah. And Shemuel said, bring Agag, sovereign of the Amalekites, here to me. So Agag came to him delightedly. He might have thought like he was spared by God. So Agag came to him delightedly, and Agag said, truly the bitterness of death has turned aside. And Shemuel said, as your sword bereaved women, let your mother be bereaved among women too. Shemuel then hewed Agag to pieces before Yehovah in Gilgal. And Shemuel went to Ramah, while Shaul went up to his house at Gibeah of Shaul, which is the hill of Saul. Should be the hill of prayer, though, right? That's what it actually means. And Shemuel did not see Saul again until the day of his death. For Shemuel mourned for Saul, and Yehovah was grieved that he had made Shaul to reign over Israel. And in the middle of these, David is anointed king. But I'm going to go to chapter 19, when Shaul persecutes David, who now has the anointing that was taken from him, because David was obedient. So this is chapter 19 of 1 Samuel, the 40-minute mark. And Shaul spoke to Jonathan, his son, and I think Jonathan had already made a covenant with David, or maybe he does it right after this. And Shaul spoke to Jonathan, his son, and to all his servants to put David to death. But Jonathan, Shaul's son, delighted much in David. And Jonathan declared to David, saying, my father Shaul seeks to put you to death, and now please be on your guard until morning, and dwell in secrecy and hide. And I myself shall go out and stand beside my father in the field where you are, and speak with my father about you, and shall see, and shall let you know. And Jonathan spoke well of David to Shaul his father, and said to him, Let not the sovereign sin against his servant, against David, because he has not sinned against you, and because his works have been very good towards you. For he took his life in his hands and struck the Philistine, and Jehovah, that's Goliath, and Jehovah wrought a great deliverance for all Israel. You saw it and rejoiced. Why then do you sin against innocent blood to put David to death without cause? And Shaul listened to the voice of Jonathan, and Shaul swore, As Jehovah lives, he does not die. He just sealed his fate right there. They want to use his name and say he shall not die. Well, then that just sealed the fate right there. Now Saul can't do anything against David, no matter how hard he tries, because he put himself under an oath. So Jonathan then called David, and Jonathan told him all these words. So Jonathan brought David to Shaul, and he was in his presence as before. But here we go. And there was fighting again. And David went out and fought with the Philistines and struck them with great smiting, and they fled before him. One side of my family's last name literally has to do with smiting and with recompense of land. And an evil spirit from Jehovah came upon. So remember, evil is disastrous. It's not moral. Wickedness is moral. Evil is not moral in Scripture. It's always disaster. And a disastrous spirit from Jehovah came upon Shaul as he sat in his house with his spear in his hand. That is to liken him to Cain and Tubal-Cain, because Cain is a politician, and Tubal-Cain is to acquire a spear. Let's see. Came upon Shaul as he sat in his house with his spear in his hand, and David was playing the lyre with his hand, or it's like a little harp. So he gets mad when his musical instrument is used to glorify Elohim. And Shaul sought to strike the spear through David and into the wall, but he slipped away from the presence of Shaul, so that he struck the spear into the wall. And David fled and escaped that night, and Shaul sent messengers to David's house to watch him and to put him to death in the morning. And Michal, David's wife, informed him, saying, If you do not save your life tonight, tomorrow you are put to death. And this was a woman literally sent to him to be a stumbling block. But David's just so cool that she still fell in love with him. Even though she was bitter later on, it's like there's this movie called Blackwater with Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren. And he has the same last name as me. Legal last name. I changed my last name, but my birth name, Wheeler, he's Scott Wheeler. So he's literally Agent Wheeler in the movie. And he gets everybody on his side because they can tell he's telling the truth and he's not lying. So that's actually a really, really good movie if you want to watch. If you like Jean-Claude Van Damme, it's a really good movie. Very, very strange movie. So Michal let David down through a window, and he went and fled and escaped. And Michal took the household idol and laid it in the bed. You see where the wickedness started. And put a cover of goat's hair for its head. Which is funny because it almost tells you right there that Alexander the Great was the anti-David. But anyway. And covered it with a garment. And when Shaul sent messengers to take David, he said, He is sick. And Shaul sent messengers back to David, saying, Bring him up to me in the bed to put him to death. Oh, while he's sick. You wonder why he wrote some of these psalms? I'm going to read one that has to do exactly with this moment. And the messengers came in and saw the household idol in the bed with a cover of goat's hair for its head. Shaul then said to Michal, why have you deceived me like this and sent my enemy away so that he escaped? It might have been like a clever Hebrew thing that she did too, saying that Saul is just a household idol with a goat's hair, which represents Greece. And they always thought they were better than Greece. It's not even called Greece, but for the sake of understanding, I have to call it Greece. So the people who lived over there, she said, and Michael answered Shaul, he said to me, let me go. Why should I put you to death? So she had to lie and say he tried to kill me because she didn't want to die. Because, I mean, if he's so psychopathic like that, he might kill his own daughter. So she had to lie. Now David fled and escaped and went to Shemuel at Ramah. And Ramah basically means the exalted brother. And told him all that Saul had done to him. And he and Shemuel went and dwelt at Naboth. And it was reported to Shaul, saying, see, David is in Naboth in Ramah. And Shaul sent messengers to take David, and they saw the assembly of the prophets prophesying, and Shemuel standing as leader over them. This is supposed to foreshadow Messiah and the Christians, the Messianists. And Shemuel standing as leader over them, and the spirit of Elohim came upon the messengers of Shaul, and they also prophesied. So a lot of times this can be through singing. Prophecy can be telling the future or just simply praising the Most High. And when Shaul was told, he sent other messengers, and they prophesied likewise. It could even be like what they say is the tongues of angels. Could be something like that. So Shaul sent messengers again the third time, and they prophesied also. Three times. So this is the three. Remember I talked about the three feasts and the three anti-feasts of the fall? So after the third one, then he himself went to Ramah and came to the great well that is at Siku. And he asked and said, where are Shemuel and David? And one said, they're in Naboth in Ramah. So he went there to Naboth in Ramah, and the spirit of Elohim was upon him too, and he went on and prophesied until he came to Naboth in Ramah. And he also stripped off his garments and prophesied before Shemuel, and lay down naked all that day and all that night. Therefore they say, is Shaul also among the prophets? No. Well, it's trying to tell you that the Most High can make anybody prophesy. But it's interesting that if he lay down naked all that day and all that night, that means his rear end was seen by the entire host of the heavens, and he was disgraced and humiliated before the entire host of the heavens for going against Shemuel, who's supposed to represent Messiah, and David, who's supposed to represent the believers, but he also represents Messiah because we're supposed to wear Messiah. So we're supposed to kind of be like little messiahs everywhere, submitting to the Messiah, well, to Elohim through the Messiah. So I wanted to say that because there's a point in there about going against Elohim. So now I'm going to read 2 Chronicles 24 because it speaks about this man that Messiah spoke of later. And I want to read one of his phrases in Hebrew. So this will probably be, it's the 50-minute mark, so I'll probably end this section with this part. Let me pull up this part real quick. Oops. Okay. So I'm going to pull this up right now. Oops. So I'll pull it up when I read it. So it's what is it again? Second Chronicles. That's back here. Second Chronicles. Almost there. Here we go. Second Chronicles 24. Right here. So in this section on this one, Joash was 7 years old when he began to reign. And you're going to have to read the context to this in the previous chapters. It was Athaliah had tried to exterminate the whole Davidic line, and there's a bunch of stuff there, but one was hidden, and he was for 7 years, and he was made king at 7 years old. Joash was 70 years old, and he was taught by the priest Jehoiada, who lived to 130. Joash was 7 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. And the name of his mother was Tibia of Beersheba. And Joash did what was right in the eyes of Jehovah all the days of Jehoiada the priest. And Jehoiada took for him 2 wives, and he brought forth sons and daughters. Sounds like north and south Israel. And after this, it came to be that Joash set his heart on restoring the house of Jehovah. And he gathered the priests and the Levites and said to them, Go out to the cities of Yehuda and gather from all Israel silver to repair the house of your Elohim from year to year, and see that you hurry the matter. But the Levites did not hurry it. And the sovereign called Jehoiada the chief and said to him, Why have you not required of the Levites to bring in from Yehuda and from Jerusalem the levy of Moshe, servant of Yehovah, and of the assembly of Israel for the tent of the witness? And see, this is showing you the problems. This is why they had problems, because they didn't care about the house. For the sons of Athaliah, that wrong woman, had broken into the house of Elohim and had also prepared all the set-apart vessels of the house of Jehovah to the Baals. So the sovereign commanded that they make a chest and set it outside the gate of the house of Jehovah, and made it known in Yehuda and in Jerusalem to bring to Jehovah the levy that Moshe, the servant of Elohim, had imposed on Yisrael in the wilderness. And all the rulers and all the people rejoiced, and they brought in and put them into the chest to completion. So interesting, it might be the priests that are at wrong, because the people are rejoicing in giving their temple tax. And it came to be at that time, when the chest was brought to the sovereign's official by the hand of the Levites, and when they saw that there was much silver, that the sovereign's scribe and the high priest's officer came and emptied the chest and took it and returned it to its place. So they did this day by day and gathered a large amount of silver. And the sovereign and Jehoiada gave it to those who did the work of the service of the house of Jehovah. And they hired stonemasons and carpenters to restore the house of Jehovah, and also those who worked in iron and bronze to repair the house of Jehovah. And the workmen labored, and the work of restoration progressed in their hands, and they established the house of Elohim to its proper form and strengthened it. And when they had finished, they brought the rest of the silver before the sovereign of Yehuda, before the sovereign and Jehoiada, and they made utensils from it for the house of Jehovah, utensils for serving and offering, ladles and vessels of gold and silver. And they offered ascending offerings in the house of Jehovah continually all the days of Jehoiada. So it's interesting if somebody makes a golden ladle with a silver handle for a certain false priest. Those who know. And Jehoiada was old and satisfied with days, and died 130 years old when he died. Another 13 again. That's very interesting. And they buried him in the city of David among the sovereigns, for he had done good in Israel, both towards Elohim and his house. And after the death of Jehoiada, remember how I spoke about Shem, that Shem actually died 35 years after Abraham died. And Shem was the protector of all the Shemites. And that's when they started messing with the Hebrews is after Shem died. And after the death of Jehoiada, the rulers of Yehuda came and bowed themselves to the sovereign, and the sovereign listened to them. Remember, corruption is always from the top down. Oh, no, bottom up. This time it kind of met in the middle. Because it seemed, I mean, the people came joyfully with their offerings, but I don't know what that says of the people, though. Seems in this case the people were actually good. And it was the priest that, because it's usually from the bottom up, but that's only in countries that don't have a priesthood like Israel. So in Israel, it was always from the center outwards, which is probably what it always is. Yeah, it actually makes a lot more sense. Instead of saying from the top down or the bottom up, it's actually from the inside out. Because it will start with the priesthood, which is supposed to be the Christians. It's supposed to be the church. That makes a lot more sense. Anyway. And they forsook the house of Yehovah Elohim of their fathers and served the Asherim and the idols. So the Asherim were literally images of... they worshipped eclipses. They were worshipping Ra. Because Ashur, the Assyrians, it's literally the eclipse people. And the Assyrians are one of the sources that we have for the alignment of calendars, the modern Hebrew calendars. Because they compare the different calendars of other nations that watch the skies. So there's a lot of proof that Asher and the Asherim are about eclipses, especially full totality eclipses. And wrath came upon Yehuda and Jerusalem because of their trespass, and he sent prophets to them to bring them back to Yehovah, and they witnessed against them, but they did not listen. Then the spirit of Elohim came upon Zechariah, son of Jehoiada the priest. So this priest that did everything, he literally saved the king's life and raised him. He got him women too, and he was very respected, died at 130 years old. His son now is who this is. Then the spirit of Elohim came upon Zechariah, son of Jehoiada the priest, who stood above the people and said to them, Thus said Elohim, why are you transgressing the commands of Yehovah, and do not prosper? Because you have forsaken Yehovah, he has forsaken you. And they conspired against him, and at the command of the sovereign they stoned him with stones in the courtyard of the house of Yehovah. Thus Joash... You're only supposed to do that to somebody who blasphemed or tried to get you to worship a different Elohim. This man is proclaiming the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel. And they stoned him in the house, in the courtyard. And Messiah says this, and I'll get to that later. Thus Joash the sovereign did not remember the loving commitment which Jehoiada his father had done to him, and killed his son. And as he died, he said, Yareh Yehovah Ve'yerosh. Yareh Yehovah Ve'yerosh. And that is, Yehovah does see and repay. I wanted to read that in the original Hebrew. I feel it's important. And it came to be at the turn of the year, which is literally December, that the army of Aram came up against him, and they came into Yehuda and Jerusalem, and destroyed all the rulers of the people from among the people, and sent all their spoil to the sovereign of Damascus, which is Damascus. For the army of Aram came with a few men, but Yehovah gave a very great army into their hand, because they, Israel, had forsaken Yehovah Elohim of their fathers, so they executed judgment against Joash. One of these IDF officers literally cursed the prophet Joel when I told him about the prophet Joel prophesies about a Chinese army coming. I'm not even kidding. It describes how they look. It describes their ancient nation. It describes they speak a language you cannot comprehend because it's literally anti-Shemitic language. And I told him the prophet Joel prophesies this, and I won't repeat what he said. It was very disgusting, and he blasphemed a prophet of Yahweh. And when they had withdrawn from him, for they left him very sick, his own servants conspired against him because of the blood of the sons of Jehoiada, the priest, and killed him on his bed, and he died. And they buried him in the city of David, and they did not bury him in the burial sites of the sovereigns. And these are the ones who conspired against him: Zabad, the son of Shemath, the Ammonitess, and Jehozabad, the son of Shimrith, the Moabitess. As to his sons and the many words about him and the rebuilding of the house of Elohim, see, they are written in the commentary of the book of the sovereigns, and Amaziahu his son reigned in his place. So with that, there's part 1. I don't know how many parts this is going to be, but however many it takes to get through all of this. So I'm going to leave with this music here, because I just really like this. It says love is funny. That's what the woman says in this song. And it's a really peaceful music.
Love is